Welcome back, fellow adventurers, to another episode of Bannworth Academy Ancient News, where scrolls come to life, mysteries are unearthed, and every stone tells a story. I'm your host, Dr. Tiffany Bannworth. I'm a biblical archaeologist, educator, and lifelong seeker of the truth in the ruins of the ancient world. Today, we journey beyond the textbooks to the heart of Egypt through the eyes of someone who not only studies its wonders, but who walks through its sands daily. From the quiet tombs of forgotten dynasties to the bustling streets of Cairo, our guest brings history to life like few others can. So grab your satchel, adjust your lens, and prepare for an unforgettable expedition into the land of the pharaohs. Joining us today is Egyptologist and cultural guide Ibrahim Salama, broadcasting with us from Cairo. It's the very cradle of the ancient civilization. With a deep passion for Egyptology and human heritage, Ibrahim has guided diplomats, archaeologists, and adventurers alike through some of Egypt's most iconic and sacred sites. His career bridges two worlds. Over a decade in the U.S. hospitality industry, where he worked with leading hotel brands and earned recognition for excellence, and is now returning to his homeland, where he helps travelers reconnect with the story of humanity written in stone. Whether you're standing beside him at the Temple of Karnak or hearing him speak from across the globe, Ibrahim's mission is clear: to awaken a sense of wonder, identity, and unity through the sacred history that binds us all. We are so honored to have you with us today. Welcome, Ibrahim. I'm so excited to meet you. We were talking a little bit off camera about, maybe one day we'll do another interview standing beside you in Egypt, because I'm definitely going to sign up for one of your tours and fly out. So we're going to tell our listeners that this is an interview one of two. One from across the ocean, two is going to be in the same country.
I hope that the two interviews will be fascinating, because now you're sitting there in the United States, and I'm sitting like 1,000 miles away, and it's 9:20 p.m. Our time, and it's like
it's 2:22 for me.
So that's quite fascinating itself. Look at the technology and how we connect the oldest state ever, Egypt, to the newest state ever, the United States, or the both supreme powers at different times through internet. So I'm very honored to be here with you, and I hope we can enlighten each other and our audience on so many exciting stuff.
We're connecting through time and space here. Also, I want to tell our listeners, if you are wildly interested in what Egyptologist Salama has to say, you can actually get a tour through the ancient ruins through him as well. He can walk along with you, teach you the Egyptology of all of these sites. So I hope that not only are you inspired to study Egyptology, but you're inspired to fly out there and meet him. And just from the time I spent with him off camera, I'm inspired to do it. So I hope that all of our listeners and our viewers will be as well. So he is a name and a face to remember. So let's get started. Let's get into your first question. It says, who was your favorite figure of all of Egyptian history, and why do they stand out to you?
Answer, because the ancient Egyptian history is definitely the oldest human recorded history. We're talking about minimum 7,000 years of writings and recording. So there are so many figures that it will definitely catch my attention, and I will fall in love with. But let me start with Elizabeth Taylor in the movie Cleopatra. She was absolutely.
She has purple eyes. Violet eyes.
I've seen the movie, Hatshepsut will maybe be the most important figure from the ancient times for me, for so many reasons. She was the lady who was running the strongest country on earth in about 1500 BC. Till today, we know that some big advanced countries, they can't even have a president as a lady, but we did that 3,500 years ago. Hatshepsut was very clever with budgeting, and she managed to make the country save a full. Egyptian ladies are still very clever managing the budget, by the way, and I do hope that one day we can see a an Egyptian lady who is the prime minister. We need someone who's clever, who's budget now in 2025. Hatshepsut's temple stands on the western bank at Valley of the near Valley of the Kings in Luxor, in a very unique design. You look at the temple today and you say, "Wow, that must have been built yesterday." So Hatshepsut, in so many ways, is definitely a very important figure from the ancient times. Akhenaten is definitely a very interesting.
Before we move on from Hatshepsut, I actually am very interested in her because I know that she was the co-regent of Thutmose III, and she was one of the names that was scratched out on Seti's temple in Abydos. So she was one of the names that was, and I also know that she used to wear a beard too. She wore a false beard when she was reigning. But something very interesting I thought you might be interested in hearing is when I just spoke with Zahi Hawass, Dr. Zahi Hawass, in June, and he actually hasn't released it yet, but he has big news coming out about Hatshepsut. So she, a lot of people thought that when she was co-regent and she was establishing the golden era of Egypt, as Thutmose was about to become of age, a lot of people think she was knocked off, but Zahi does what do you say, MRIs of all of the mummies now that he finds, and he has modern doctors do almost like a forensic report, and he found out how Hatshepsut died, and it was not from an assassination attempt, it was not from murder or accidental death. She actually died from cancer. So he found out that she succumbed to cancer, and he has a medical report to back it up, and he revealed it stateside when he came and he did a lot of lectures on the stateside, but I don't think he's sit on a worldwide forum yet. But Hatshepsut died from cancer, so I thought that maybe you would be interested in
that. I did hear for so many years, especially foreign Egyptologists, making the claim that Thutmose III took revenge from her by destroying her monuments and erasing her name.
He said he was restoring Ma'at, and that's the same thing Seti said.
Yes. We as Egyptians, I think most of us, we did not believe the story.
Yeah.
Because you can still see her name quite clear at the entrance of her temple. So you say, if Thutmose did that, why he didn't erase her name from the entrance? Right. Why he did not erase her name from her huge obelisk at Karnak temple? So the idea about erasing the names, it did happen for so many ancient kings, not just Hatshepsut, and it happened for so many other reasons. The thing about what Professor Zahi Hawass noticed, if I'm not mistaken, in 2006, it was at the basement of the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir Square, a very, very fine mummy of a female, and it was kept inside a very cheap coffin, and it was made of wood, not gold.
Yeah.
And the thing is, by him examining the mummy, he noticed that it's very well mummified, so it must be a royal mummy, not just for a noble person. And by here, when new technology, mostly Western-made technology, come to help us here in Egypt to understand more about our ancient history, when they compare the DNA from that mummy, which was found in 1860, to her other organs, which was found, of course,
in the canopic jars,
with the cartouche, with her name written on it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we were sure anything inside the canopic jars does belong to Queen Hatshepsut, and the DNA confirmed that very fine mummy does belong to Queen Hatshepsut, and that's how it was taken from the basement of the Egyptian Museum to the second floor, the Royal Mummies Room, and now she is kept with all the other mummies at the newest museum, the National Museum of the Egyptian Civilization near Old Cairo area, and you can tell by just looking at her feature that she did die in peace. So Thutmose III did not really take revenge of her, and he treated her as a queen. But it was very interesting time in our ancient history, because when other neighbors around Egypt heard that there is a lady who's ruling Egypt, And that's why she was putting the beard and showing her statue into a man's body, because she didn't want the people to think that, oh, she's a female, so she's weak. So she was the combination between the mercy and the brain of a woman and the strength of a man. Yeah. So he honored her after he took over the throne of Egypt. And, you know, he had to lead 17 military campaigns to secure the Egyptian borders, which has been attacked by enemies back in the day, and he became like the legend of the ancient world.
So are you saying that her body was moved in antiquity to save her from like a beautiful tomb to the wooden box, that they moved it to save her?
So a repeat question by people from every country when they come to Egypt, and we tour Egypt and we go to all the fascinating sites. They usually ask, what did really happen? How did Egypt end from being the most educated and educating country on earth to kind of chaotic today? And the answer varies also. If you ask that same question to Egyptologists around, they will give you different answers. My humble opinion was the theft happened at valuable things. The tomb robbers or the priests back in the day, the people who knew the site.
Yeah, they would double back. Yeah.
So some honest or patriotic priests will take the mummies of their kings and queens, and they will do their best to hide it. One of the techniques they did is they will take the mummy from the golden coffin, like the 120 kilograms pure golden coffin of Tutankhamun. They will take it from the coffin and they will put it inside a cheap coffin, or even it will be no coffin at all, and they will put some mummies together in what we call a cachette, which is like a safe, mummy's safe. Like we found a couple of these guys around different sites in Egypt, like in Karnak temple and in the even Western desert. So that was a technique to protect the mummy itself, because you know, for the Egyptians, the mummy, the survival of the mummy was more important than all the gold. Without the mummy, the spirit will never join the mummy. They won't be.
The Ka and the Ba won't go together and be.
Exactly. You know. So for them, it was very important to protect the mummies more than the gold. And that's a good thing, because that's how we can compare the DNA. That's how we know so much, because we do have 3,500 years old dead bodies still in a.
Was her canopic jars moved with the mummy, or did they leave the canopic jars in sight and her mummy was moved?
Yes, you know, so canopic jars has been always put in alabaster jars. And alabaster has the power to keep it sealed, so it doesn't get decomposed inside.
Right.
With the mummies, so they didn't move her canopic jars, because just like Tutankhamun, also it's kept without like an advanced technique of preservation. But for mummies, it must be kept inside, as you know, a special showcase that it measures the temperature, humidity, spread of germs, stuff like that.
So it hits the air, just like turns to powder almost.
Exactly. So they are separated. They are not together.
Wonderful. All right. So tell me about Akhenaten.
Which
I'm also very interested in. I know some about him as well.
Yes, he is not the most famous. He's not Ramses or Moses or Tutankhamun, but he is the most studied, because in the middle of nowhere, when Amun-Ra was the most god in ancient Egypt, and Luxor, Thebes, or Tawas, the great southern city, was the capital of Egypt during the 18th dynasty, we found this guy who said, I'm no longer going to honor all these gods, okay? And, you know, we're talking about more than 3,000 gods recognized from the ancient times. He said, I will just be calling one god, and for that new god, Aten exactly, or Aten, and for that new god, you don't need to go to a temple and make offerings and connect to the priests. You don't need priests to connect you with the new god. All you need to do is you extend your arms under the sun, and you talk to your God.
Aten is depicted on as being the sun with outraged hands reaching back to earth. And is it Akhenaten isn't his birth name? He changed it when he started to worship. He's Atmos the fourth, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. In Eden, or the horizon of God Aton, if I'm not mistaken, that's how we get his name Akhenaten into the life. So he was married to a very important, famous Queen Nefertiti,
And
he
she
left.
changed her name too.
Exactly.
Neferuat.
Exactly. And he had to leave Luxor and went to start a new capital, which is Amarna, modern name Elminia, which is unfortunately not as famous as Luxor or Aswan or other sightseeing. But the kind of art there is completely different than any art from any period in the ancient
In the
history.
Theban and like Luxor sides, yeah.
The way he depicted himself as in male and female in the same body. There is so much about Akhenaten that need to be studied. Some people connect between him and other prophets. So Akhenaten is definitely a very interesting character.
Yeah, and Horemheb, because I know that it went Akhenaten, Tutankhamun, I, and then Horemheb. And talking about names that were erased, Horemheb erased all three, Akhenaten, Tutankhamun, and I, and he erased their names, and he said he was restoring Ma'at as well. So the two figures that you have mentioned so far are controversial, sort of, in some sort of sense. Either Horemheb or Seti was after them for some reason.
It's a very we don't have all the information yet. There's so much buried under the sand. And we need thousands of years, maybe even with our new technology, to understand everything, if we will understand everything at some point.
Yes. Oh, yes, I do. I second your favorites. I like all the ones you've chosen so far. Hopefully they're on your tour too. So.
Yes, hopefully we can. We need time, and I tell people, in my honest opinion is 2 weeks in Egypt as a start is sort of excellent. 10 days is good. 1 week is good.
Yeah.
And there's something about Egypt that it's attracting visitors. Personally, I do have some Egyptologist friends that they have been coming to Egypt since before I was born, and they still come to Egypt from every country on earth. You have people who are in love with the ancient Egyptian history because mainly they want to understand how did it work. Hopefully we can predict a better future by understanding the past.
Yeah, because Howard Carter, they call that time period between like the 1920s to the 1940s Egyptomania in America. And that was the time period where, unfortunately, not only did they remove a lot of artifacts and mummies from Egypt, but they were having mummy parties where everybody that had money in the 20s they were taking mummies out of Egypt, and they would come back to wherever they came from, and they would have mummy parties, and they were opening, basically opening mummies, and at their parties, they were destroying mummies to make the paint, mummy brown, which is a tinted paint. And in some cases, they were like eating some of the mummies because they thought that it was giving them eternal life. So unfortunately, it's been more than just official places like the British Museum that's kind of ravaged Egypt. It's been the rich people who show up for tourism back in Egyptomania in the 1920s, 1940s that were just taking mummies as a souvenir. So I'm very big about artifacts being either in situ, so where the whole world can see it, and if it can't be in situ, being in a museum where it's open. I'm very private collection is kind of a weird situation, but there's been on my previous guest, which if everybody's watching the show in order, my guest from last week was talking about holograms, and she was a epigraphist paleographer type of thing in India. And what inspired her to get into the field, she went to an exhibit in India where they had holographic artifacts, where it looks like it's 3D in the room. And I would say that that would probably be the only reason why I could say that private commission or privately owning an artifact would be okay if they allowed the holographic imagery in museums around the world, or even if like the Grand Egyptian Museum has really cool artifacts. Because in America right now, and I might go for Christmas, so I'll send you pictures. They have the Biltmore has a King Tutankhamun exhibit right now, and it's all obviously replicas because Hawass is not letting anything in or out of Egypt. And it's supposed, if they had also art, or if they had holographic imagery like that too, where we replicas of all the stuff that's in that Grand Egyptian Museum, it would be really cool. But then people won't go directly to the Grand Egyptian Museum, and we got to get them there in person too, because like Zahi Hawass says, like you and I were talking about, Egypt is safe. Egypt is safe for travel. It's safe for foreigners to come through, and especially with trusted guides. It's very important that people get with guides that are trusted and backed by, agencies and stuff like that. They need to get with people like you to do the tours so that everything is great. But we need to get more people to Egypt. All right, let me ask you one more question before we take a break. Now we talked about what a couple of your favorite historic people are. Tell me what first drew you to the study of Egyptology and how that evolved into a professional path. Now, obviously, when your whole childhood, your whole life is walking in these incredible places, I can see where that was an easy choice. But I mean, I loved it from afar too. So tell me what first drew you to Egyptology professionally.
That was my most favorite question so far. You asked the question, you gave me the answer.
I knew it.
You're absolutely right. I was very impressed that I was born in the oldest part of Cairo. So, me going to my kindergarten, and I will find tourists walking the neighborhood. Me going to the school every day, or coming back from the school every day, and I was interacting actually with tourists, and it made me fascinated to find everyday people from countries that I never heard of before, maybe, are coming walking the streets in old Cairo area. And Cairo itself is about 1400 years old.
Yes. Wow. Yeah.
Yes, since I was a child, I said, like, I really want to know why these people pay all that money and they leave their home and their beautiful advanced countries, because you're talking mainly about most of the visitors do come from Europe and America. And I wanted to understand what makes them come all the way, being stuck on a couple of airplanes for like 48 hours to come all the way. And that was maybe what triggered it. In high school, and in Egypt, we have a different schooling system here.
Yeah.
High school, your total marks decide which college you'll be joining. So I didn't know till I finished my high school. I didn't know what's it I really want to go to college to study. And a very smart friend, he's a lawyer. And funny thing, they say don't argue with a lawyer or with the side, because they both make money by talking. So I did ask for his advice, and he said, look at your marks and see what's the best you did in high school, then decide on it. And the best for me was in history and in English. So I said, wow, if I go to study Egyptology, I will be like one of these guys who always speak a foreign language and walking around with fancy looking people explaining to them the history of Egypt. So in high school, that pushed me to go deeper into Egyptology.
Because you've walked diplomats and you did do what you set out to do. You've walked fancy people around Egypt.
That's absolutely true. Guide in Egypt, it's a full-time job. You have to study minimum 4 years in a college to carry a degree in Egyptology. Wow. Then when you apply to get your guiding license, it takes them at least 3 months of investigations, you must be a very trusted person to represent your country. So Zay Hawass is actually giving the correct advice. If you're going to Egypt, yes, get a tour guide, deal with the tour company. It's like an air museum. It's too big. Even people who were born and lived all their life in Cairo, they still don't know Cairo, not Egypt.
Right.
So yes, it is definitely something that I would say everyone who can afford to travel, they need to go to Egypt. It's a must. We own that to ourselves. We need to invest in ourselves, and the best way to do that is by learning. So
I love that.
Going into the oldest human recorded civilization is definitely the best thing we can do to benefit ourselves from the technology we have now. Because back in the day, it will take like 3 years to sail on a boat from the United States to, go across the Atlantic, then the Mediterranean to come to Egypt. But now
and they still were doing it.
Exactly. Now you have three airports, JFK and Dallas in Washington, and if I'm not mistaken, in Los Angeles as well on the western coast. You have direct flight with Egypt Air that it will connect you to Egypt 10 hours and you're already there. So please, if you can afford to travel, please start arranging for your trip now and come to Egypt, because you will go back with definitely better vibes. Let's put it this way.
Oh yeah, I'm all about. I think there might be one civilization that's got an older recording-ish. I think it's the Aborigines of Australia are the oldest civilization of written history. So, maybe. Yeah.
So, long story short, if you come to Egypt and you get on a chopper and you fly slowly all over Egypt, everywhere you go, you have landmarks.
Yes.
I know people connect the pyramids to Egypt, and yes, there is nothing more impressive, maybe on earth, than the Great Pyramid of Giza. But oh wow, like there are landmarks all over Egypt. And the last one will maybe be Abu Simbel. You will be 40 miles away from Sudan. So there is so much to be seen in Egypt, and it still exists. So with all respect and all love to
come to Egypt,
every ancient civilization, because in the United States they will definitely tell you Mesopotamia is the oldest thing. Then you ask the same people what's left there, and they will answer nothing.
There's nothing. Yeah.
Exactly. So Egypt is a different story. Another thing is the Western scholars, they invented, ology. Of course, that ology in Latin means science. So Egypt is the only country that when you add it to ology, you have Egyptology. It's the only country on earth that its history is science.
Yeah, there's Assyriology for the Assyrian Empire way back when, but to your point, Egypt is the only modern.
Never heard of it. I don't know why you really read.
We're just talking about Egypt now, okay? No more people from Australia, no more Assyrians. We're just talking about Egypt.
I love audience. They're pretty good.
All right, well, let's take a short break, and we will be back in a few moments. Hello, welcome back. I'm here with Egyptologist Ibrahim Salama, and we are just getting going. We have plenty of questions to pick his mind, and so far, it's been a very interesting interview. So let's move on to question 3. And we're excited to hear who you've met in the field, who you know, who you've talked to. You've guided guests ranging from diplomats to adventurers. What's been your most meaningful tour experience? So who or what and why?
Everyone comes to Egypt, they are seeking something which is mainly education. They want to get educated. They are top figures around the world from every country. but they come here humble and they want to learn, and they do exchange their information with me. And to me, every guest I have guided in my career, I did learn stuff from them. Some of them, of course, left a deep impact on me. And there are so many stories. Uh, Maybe what comes to my mind is that day that I was guiding one of the top five generals of the Pentagon,
Wow.
and he was in Egypt. And if I'm not mistaken, I have been told that he is the most important man on the Egyptian ground now. Like, we needed him to be accommodated properly. So we went to the pyramid after it was closed for visitors,
Oh, wow.
and it was my first time doing that. It wasn't actually allowed, as far as I knew back in the day. And I'm 6'1", so I'm sort of okay with my height. He must have been like double my height or something. And it was just me and him, surrounded by plenty of Marines, Secret Service, Egyptian security officers. And we did spend like 20 minutes. I was talking for like 20 minutes in front of the Great Pyramid. We were like maybe
Wow.
10 inches from the Great Pyramid. So we were like,
You just touch it.
and I usually start by saying that you have done it. You're here by the pyramid. You don't need me or any other tour guide to tell you what's going on. Because what you feel here is different than what I feel. The vibes there at the pyramid is very strong, and it varies from person to other. And when I was done talking, and trust me, sometimes, yes, I do stop talking.
Me too.
He looked, down to me because he's much higher. He was much taller, and he said, "Son," and I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You made me change my mind."
Wow.
And I sort of panicked quietly.
Yeah.
What did I do? How did I do that? And he said, "I lived all my life believing that we are the most advanced human civilization.
Oh, wow.
I think I'm mistaken. I think your ancestors, they had so much more knowledge than us today." And that was a moment to stop and think again about everything we're living today. And he was actually absolutely correct. Yes,
Yeah.
the ancient ones had their own knowledge, and some of that knowledge you don't read in books today. It's not written.
Yeah. Why?
It's narrated. It's narrated by the locals.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Why? It's a very smart question at this moment, of course. Why? So you can come to Egypt. Because yes, you watch documentaries about Egypt all your life. You visit museums all around the world and you find Egyptian monuments. Yes, amazing. But it's nothing like coming to Egypt. The smell is different.
Yeah.
Here is different. Like, you see obelisks everywhere.
Yeah. In Washington, D.C.
Exactly. The Washington Monument, which is a fake one. It's a replica. It's not a real obelisk.
I think there's a real one in New York City. There's
Exactly. Central Park.
Yes.
And all over Europe museum, and maybe there were like 50 something obelisks sunk in the Mediterranean Sea while they were transported to Europe in the last 200 years. And it makes you think, why did the people in the modern times bother with the transportation of a piece that it's made of hundreds of granite? So you see that everywhere, but when you come to Karnak,
I just saw a transported piece. This last month, so 2 weeks ago, maybe, I was at the Metropolitan Museum of Art and History, or in New York City, and I saw the Temple of Dendur, and they moved it, like you said, stone by stone. Why move it when you can see it in situ in Egypt? You know.
So I think it's about time now to really talk to everyone seriously about, like, let's go do what we need to do for ourselves. Let's discover, how did we really live in the ancient times, because as far as I know, we're still the same.
Yeah.
You're still like Hatshepsut, and I'm still like Akhenaten. We're still human beings. We eat food, then we go to the restroom. So nothing is really changed about our physical appearance or how we live our daily life.
Right.
So we are connected in a way or another. And when I started this conversation, I said "Salamu alaikum," and "Salam" means peace. That's how we greet each other here in Egypt at all the time, and that's maybe what we need to look for now with this very fast-paced life. We need some peace in our life,
Yes.
and we need to know how did it happen.
Yeah, how did it all come together? I love that. Now we're back.
I spent a couple of months in Florida, in Orlando.
Oh, where in Florida?
I was actually in Orlando.
Oh, yeah, I'm going there sometime this month.
I was like 12 miles away from Universal Studios. I was managing a hotel there, and I know.
Did you do the mummy ride? Did you go on the mummy ride in Universal? We can get the Egyptologist perspective of the mummy.
You can do that together. You can take me there.
Yeah.
And I can
if you come to Florida, you better call me. That would be pretty great. We don't really have anything else wonderfully here. You know what's funny is I was in New York last month, and I know Cleopatra. What's the obelisk in Central Park? Is it Cleopatra's? I didn't go see it, and I was like 2 feet because the Metropolitan Museum of Art is right on the brink of Central Park, and I know it's there. And for some reason, while I was in New York City, I was so set on seeing the Temple of Dendur that I forgot until this very moment of talking to you that Cleopatra's obelisk is in there, and I was like a few, like, I don't know, maybe less than a mile away from it. So now I have to go back to New York City as well. Telling you.
I can say yes on that because I did go to New York City a couple of times. I never been into the Metropolitan. I never seen the Cleopatra's Needle there. You, ma'am, need to come see the real thing.
Yeah, definitely. I've always wanted to take a tour, a Nile River tour. So I don't know how far away Thebes and Luxor is, but I always thought maybe I would do Luxor and then ride the boat to Amarna. Do you know? And I have a son. My children are named after Egypt. So I have my second son's name is Cairo, and my daughter's name is Amunet. So I have a Cairo and an Amunet. I have others, but I mean, as for the Egyptian connection, and as those two.
In Europe and in the United States. So I have guided so many families, and kids sometimes are more attracted to it more than even adults. So yes, your kids, Cairo and Amunet and the other kids,
they'll be right at home in all of the places. Let's see. Our next question is, you've walked the sands of many legendary sites, as we've been talking about. What is your favorite location? What is one location that still moves you every time you visit it?
It's also a couple, but definitely the number one is definitely the pyramid. There is something about the pyramid that sometimes I went there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I came back 2 o'clock afternoon, and I was more impressed. You see the
Are there certain days? Like, I know that there are certain astronomical events that are very cool, that if you're there when it lines up with like Orion's belt, or when the core of the universe is visible there. Do you find that when you go to Giza, one of the ancient wonders of the world, that you like it all the time, or is there certain times of year where it's best to come see it?
Even while just driving like on the highway and you see the pyramid from a distance, a couple of miles away,
takes your breath away.
If I'm walking down all the Cairo very narrow streets and you see we have the black and white pictures from the early 19th century, and it shows the Nile in front of the pyramid when we had no constructions at all in front of the pyramid, I stop and it takes my breath away. So to me, yes, the pyramid is the most interesting construction on earth, and there is nothing else can take that away from the Great Pyramid. But believe it or not, every site I go to is very interesting, or interesting enough to keep me entertained. Sometimes
Yeah.
people say, like, don't you get bored of keep visiting the same places? No, never. Because every time I go, I feel something new. I learn something new. It does look different even during different hours of the day. So I would say, like, if you're coming to Cairo and you have the time, please go to the pyramid a couple of times, not just one time, and
Yeah.
go first thing in the morning. Go around the sunset. Let's do a camel ride.
Oh, I
By
love camels. The
There you
camels
go.
are is my school mascot. So like I love camels, cobras, and crocodiles. All C's.
Ship, because
Yeah.
back in the day, before of course inventing the 4x4 trucks, they used to travel by camels in the desert. So camels can be humans' best friend out there in the desert. Abu
Watch out,
Sim,
they spit.
of course, they everything does. Abu Simbel, in my humble opinion, is maybe the second most important site in Egypt. It's all the way to the south, when where Ramses II, the fruit cake, the guy who's all over the place, built a great temple for himself, and he dug
Yeah.
it inside the mountain. And then there is a next door temple for his
Which
wife
are Abu
Queen
Simbel?
Abu
Uh,
Simbel. Yes,
Simbel, yeah. Oh, I would love to see it. See, like you said, 2 weeks is not enough. I mean,
it's
you really
it's an
a month
appetizer.
is good. A month is good.
Full plate 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yes, a month you will be having like a meal with
I'll be
appetizer and
Egyptian by the time I come back.
dessert. I think somehow you're already Egyptian.
What?
You are already Egyptian somehow.
Me? You think so?
I
I don't
feel
know.
it. I think if you get your DNA tested, you will find Egyptian roots in there.
I've had my DNA tested, and thus far I have a few percentage that's unaccounted for. So who knows? I would love to find out I was Egyptian or something like that, something ancient from the Levant at least, somewhere from the ancient world. I mean, we all come somewhere from there, but I would love to find out that I was Egyptian. Let me see here. You've likely visited the tomb of Tutankhamun many times. What detail about it always captures people's imagination?
The, uh, the tomb is very small. So the tomb is the smallest tomb at Valley of the Kings, and
Yeah.
it was not built for him. He was just a young boy starting his life. But his high priest eye was
Right? Oh,
uh,
his high priest. Okay.
Hormoheb was the commander of the army.
No, I said Imhotep is what I said, but yeah, he's the architect. Never mind. I take over after his death, and then he was with the Naxunamun for a little bit as well. Yeah,
So,
not a great guy.
no, he was an old man, and he was not king, but he wanted to be buried at Valley of the Kings. So Tutankhamun allowed him to build a tomb at Valley of the Kings. But guess what? The sudden death of Tutankhamun didn't allow the officials, especially, when the king died, the high priest becomes in charge of the burial of the king. So they didn't have time to dig a whole new tomb for Tutankhamun. The
Yeah.
only available one was for I, and he gave it away so he can bury the king within 40 days, the time of the mummification process.
Yes.
So that's everybody noticed that at Tutankhamun, because they go visit other tombs and they say, wow, Tutankhamun tomb is definitely the smallest. So yes, the tomb is very small. Then when you go to the Egyptian museum and you have like 5,000 pieces came out of the tomb, everybody
Yeah.
goes like crazy. How did they fit everything we see here inside that small tomb?
Because didn't they have chariots and his cane and even his twins? His twins were in there and everything as well.
What they call it Chinese boxes, I think they should be called Egyptian boxes. Four gilded shrines fitting inside each other. Then
Wow.
inside the smallest shrine, it was the red granite sarcophagus. Inside it was a gilded wooden coffin. Then a second gilded wooden coffin. Then the third inner coffin, which is 120 kilograms of gold. So these stuff it's huge. But for me personally, I remember clearly something like 20 years ago, it was my first time in the tomb. And back in the day, it was closed for restoration. So only Egyptologists were able to. Now, the tomb is open for visitors. They can visit the tomb of Tutankhamun when they go to Luxor. The thing that it blew my mind away was his mummy, of course, as you're aware, it's in a very fragile condition. They never get outside Valley of the Kings. So when you look at the mummy, it's being left alone there, and you say, wow, like they did their best to bury and or to put everything he needed in the afterlife with him in the tomb. Then you found his mummy is left alone, and everything else is like 600 miles to the north of Luxor at Cairo Museum or the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. That's something that I have been always thinking about.
Maybe he had a few good shabtis to help him in the afterlife.
Yes, of course. So they did not. And thank you for bringing the Chapti story, because that's a repeat also myth about ancient Egypt, and people still ask today in 2025, like, did the ancient Egyptians kill servants so they can serve the king in the afterlife? And they say no. They just put the small statues, Chapti or Chapti, when they believed with a magical spell they will turn into a real servant to serve the king. So the ancient kings or the ancient Egyptians, they were never into killing or violence.
Yeah.
They were into
Zahi, again, the last time I saw him, he talked about King Tut, and a lot of people thought he was murdered as well. Like it was an ancient crime scene because of the back of his head. And Zahi, he brought in a medical team to examine him, and what he had said as of June was that he died from an infection from a broken femur, probably from a chariot race or something like that. But that the break on the back of his head was where they put embalming fluid through. So it wasn't as though he was ever struck in the back of the head, but it was a purposeful embalming technique, a later embalming technique where they would put the stuff through the back, is what, as according to Dr. Zahi Hawass.
By the Europeans, especially when they started to focus on Egyptology, and when they realized that the high priest became the follower on the throne of Egypt, they said immediately, okay, so his high priest killed him, then he got married to his wife, he became the king, so he was murdered. We never thought so. Why? Because of all the funeral collection for Tutankhamun.
Yeah.
If he was murdered, then who prepared all the funeral collection for him?
Yeah.
Who built these thousands of pieces for him? We, as Egyptologists, we never thought he was killed. Same story like Hatshepsut. Then it comes new technologies to confirm
which you've already known. Yeah.
Exactly.
There is some weirdness though about it, because I remember learning in college that Anuk-Sunamun, who was the queen at the time, that she had sent away for a different person to come marry her to rule Egypt, and he mysteriously died in transit, and that's when I solidified his rule. I believe he had kind of a short rule before Horemheb took over, but I think there's still I's not completely out of the mess. I think there's a little bit of weirdness with him. Maybe he didn't murder King Tut, but I don't know about the guy who was on his way to marry Anuk-Sunamun. He may have him. Who knows?
But again, he died very young.
19, yeah, 18, 19.
He had actually his wife was pregnant maybe twice, and she lost the fetus because there's actually
siblings.
Remains, exactly, two remains of the fetus was buried in his tomb. So most probably she was also young. Most probably she panicked and she wanted a foreign prince to come to Egypt to take over the throne. Yes, the prince never made it to Egypt. He disappeared on the eastern desert. We don't know if it's the high priest or the commander of the army, or Hormab. One of them maybe did that. But anyway, I'm glad they did that, because the time that was the beginning of the
All Spare and Love and War.
Exactly. So it was what it was.
It was, well, yeah, I agree. Let's see. So obviously the whole world's heard of King Tut with Harold Carter. And, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, I feel like Howard Carter did a smash and grab, and he wasn't very archaeologically technical when he removed some things from that tomb. But aside from King Tut, which the world knows about, if you know anything about Egypt, you've heard of King Tut. Are there any lesser known tombs or temples that you believe hold major significance, historical significance, that may be lesser spoken about but more historically significant to Egypt or ancient Egypt?
Looks like Deir el-Medina, like a mile away from Valley of the Kings. That's a very unique, important site that people don't hear much about it, and it shows the daily life activities of the ancient Egyptian workers who were digging the tombs of Valley of the Kings. They have the messages narrated to each other. Okay, so we know, for example, that they were meeting like every evening at somebody's house, and then they will have a little boy maybe with a piece of pottery, and they will write on it, okay, Tiffany is bringing bagels, Ibrahim is bringing waffle. Yes, and they will. And if they honor that, and that's something actually it does happen in the United States today, right?
Yeah.
When you have like a, what do you
like
call
a potluck dinner. Potluck.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's an ancient Egyptian invention. You find it only at Deir el-Medina, or the workers' village in Luxor. Saqqara is the biggest necropolis in Egypt from the ancient times. It's bigger than Western Bank in Luxor.
Yeah.
And when you go there to visit the tombs of the nobles, you see also daily life activities like hunting scenes, fishing from the river, and the details of these creatures is mind-blowing. You will see them showing you, for example, how did they move heavy jars that it was filled with water or wine or essence, and how they put it on the sledge, and how the jars are much bigger than the workers pulling it.
Was it water and sand with the
exactly wood? You will see the technique, and you will know that aliens had nothing to do with building the ancient Egyptian civilization.
I agree. I know that I'm not about it. I'm not about that alien. There's a guy in America, I forget his name, but he's kind of like the Rube of archaeology. He's like, those aliens, and he always looks like he's deranged. But I'm sure he's respected in his field. I'm just putting a disclaimer out there for whoever, I forgot his name. But
bring him with you. See the Step Pyramid, the oldest limestone construction on Earth, the oldest pyramid ever. Then we will go to the Ashur to see the Bent Pyramid and the Red Pyramid, the first true pyramid in Egypt. Yeah. Then we will end our day by going to Giza, and trust me, he will agree with you and me, and he will say like aliens had nothing to do with this.
Right. And you know what I also love is that what is in Egypt is there's also like tomb graffiti and stuff like that from the workers. And there's a lot of, I was talking to my last guest, which was Professor Sejwal, and all of the history that she presented was only from the noble class, like Ashoka. And the thing is, like in America now, if you only looked at the very rich or like Hollywood, that wouldn't be an accurate representation of American culture. But in Egypt, it's so widely covered that we have from the pharaohs down to even the tomb builders because of their some of the graffiti on the walls, and we can really see into the everyday life. Like even how you said those potluck lists, they all stood the test of time. And Mesopotamia doesn't have that. A lot of ancient cultures around the world do not have everything that stood the test of time, which goes to say that the architecture, the technology of building was that of something that would last forever, because it's still here and you can still visit it and it's still stable. We can't even build buildings now that are still stable in 100 years, so it really is something. That, and I think Rome, the roads to Rome were really well built, but Egypt is standing tall, and it's the only ancient wonder of the world that's still standing. I believe all the ancient wonders, like the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, they're gone. The Colossus is gone. Everything's gone besides the Gizan pyramid. So it's the only thing that, even from the ancient technological perspective, that still stands.
Exactly. And once, Egypt had another wonder, which was the lighthouse, and it was half
of Alexandria, right?
Exactly, and it's half the age of the pyramid, but it didn't last for long. It was destroyed by earthquakes, and because it was built during the Greek time, to the Greeks, they were not as good as the Egyptian architectures, with all respect. So they built it as a round tower, while the ancient Egyptians, of course, when they built the pyramid, with the very wide base and the thin top, that gave the construction.
And it still stands, even though they took like the plaster off of it and they took the capstone off of it, and it's still it's sturdy. So
absolutely, you're absolutely right. Exactly.
I love it. So we've kind of talked on this, and we'll both agree. So the next question, which I'm kind of just going to glaze over, it says there's countless theories surrounding ancient technology and architecture. What's one theory you find plausible or intriguing? So our theory, both of our theories, is that the ancient Egyptians were capable people, that it has nothing to do with aliens. It has nothing to do with anything like that. I do know that one of the people that I regularly, I'm on their talk show, and he writes a lot of books. His name is David Masters. He definitely believes in the concept that the pyramids were a way to harness free energy, that the capstones and whatnot, they harnessed free energy in ancient times, and that he and Zahi do not agree on it. Because I know David Masters says that there are things underneath the ground of the pyramid that were like batteries and whatnot. And Zahi, I believe, even invited Mr. Beast there to show that there is nothing besides solid rock underneath the pyramids. So I know there's some of those, but I'm not opposed to. That's one thing that I might have some plausibility, that they may have understood, because if they are able to align their pyramids to the Orion's belt, I would not be surprised that their technology wasn't so far advanced that they knew how to harness free energy, or that they understood frequencies. You know what I mean? So not that I believe in aliens or anything like that, but I do believe that there may be more to the idea, like ancient Egypt may be even more advanced than we know, that they may have had very advanced like energy systems and stuff like that. So that's kind of where I clock in. So I give them more credit, not less credit, for the advancements.
One of the first things we learn in college about Egyptology, that without a written evidence, all theories are welcome.
Right.
So of course we have also some Egyptian and some British and some American scientists that they spent years studying the Great Pyramid, and they come to that theory that the pyramid was a generator. Maybe the obelisk work as like a transmission pole or something. It could be true, it could be wrong, but we need time still. We need time to do more diggings. We need to understand more before we say yes it was, or no it wasn't.
But it's not off the table yet. Until it's been disproved, it's still on the table.
But one of the things about the pyramid, I think they made a test like 60 years ago or something, that they put a rusty blade inside the burial chamber
Oh,
of King Khufu by night, and next morning it was
rust
shiny.
free. Wow.
Exactly.
So there's
Exactly.
something going on there. And I do know there's
lots of things.
There's some other, there was a lady who's like an archaeologist who she went and she took I'm not sure where she was, but she took a picture of the statue of Sekhmet, and it was a dim lit statue inside like a temple or somewhere. And there was nobody there, and the frequency was weird, because when she developed the photos, it was like it was as though the statue of Sekhmet was moving, but it wasn't. It was just in the room. There was nobody there. It was just a still picture. But later, when she left and she looked at these professionally taken photos, because she had a professional photographer with her, it was like blurry, and there was a lot of movement. So stuff like that I take into account to believe that there's like a hotbed of energy, frequencies there that maybe we can't feel resonance, but sometimes cameras and stuff like that are getting disturbed thinking. But I know that there's also a belief system that it's actually, Sekhmet, and that if you look at this woman's, I don't know if it's a spoof or not, but it looks like there's a blurred vision of somebody from ancient Egypt in the photo. If I ever find a freeze frame of it, I'll send it to you. But she's of the opinion that it's Sekhmet, and there's a lot of ancient stuff going on. And I'm of the perspective that perhaps it is, like we said, energy fields. They were very good at harnessing energy. There's technology that we don't understand, because there's modern day new discoveries saying that, like, there was that diver who lived underwater for like, I don't know, 91 days or something like that, and it was a high pressure system, and he lived under the water. He came back, and the telomeres on his cells were longer. He looked and seemed younger on his biological age. So I almost wonder if the ancient Egyptians knew all of this type of things. They knew how to stay young. They knew how to live within the frequencies, stuff like that. I'm very interested in it, because there's a lot of talk, even in the Bible, it talks about how you should not wear linen and wool at the same time. And we've later found out that linen and wool both have 5,000 wavelength frequency, but if you wear them at the same time, they cancel each other out. So there was an ancient knowledge of frequency within the Bible even, and I'm sure Egypt was on the precipice of knowledge as well. Well, let me ask you one more question before we take a break. Quickly, let's see here. Have you ever encountered something out of sight, an inscription, a design, a carving that left you genuinely speechless?
Yes. First thing maybe comes to my mind is the tomb of King Ramses fifth / King Ramses sixth. Long story short, it's the one next to Tutankhamun, and it was closed for so long for restoration. And when it was opened after like 20 years of being closed, I went inside, and I went also by myself, because there is no guiding allowed inside the tombs of Valley of the Kings. So we don't talk much, and we don't create noise if you have a couple of tour guides speaking different languages. So I was by myself. I was by myself, and I went all the way down, and it was my first time there. And I must have spent good amount of time staring at the ceiling, that it made the guards come down to me and say, "Sir, wow. Are you okay?" I don't know how they did it, but the very fresh colors at Valley of the Kings is also a different story. I think it should be much more famous than all the modern paintings by Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci. The surgical instruments at Kolombo Temple. When I had one of the top surgeons of the world, he was with me on a tour, and he told me, these are the exact same tools we are using in the operations rooms up till today. that was exactly this very famous scene at Kamumbu Temple. Kamumbu is a small city between Luxor and Aswan, and it's not as famous, but that scene, it's they rebuilt the temple during the Greco-Roman period, and they were offering these surgical instruments to Imhotep,
Oh,
the
wow.
very famous guy. Uh, I am in happiness. That's the translation of his name, E.M. Hetib. I am in happiness. Mr. Happy Guy, the famous architect of King Zoser, who built the first pyramid ever. He was the first one to use limestone. And that gives you also more depth about that the ancient Egyptians honored their good humans for 2,500 years after they were dead.
Yeah.
So yes, everywhere you go, maybe you will find something that will capture your eye or it will capture your heart, and you will need to like take a picture and go study it more. So yes, everywhere you go, there is something that it will catch your attention for sure.
Oh, I love it. I know Egypt. I'm just like waiting to go there. You're going to have to throw me out of the country because I'm going to probably try to stay longer than my visa. All right. So we're going to take a short break and we will be back with Egyptologist and tour guide Ibrahim Salama. It's been incredible. We'll be back in a flash, my friends.